Welcome to Lesson 10 of Singularity Sanctuary's Ethics and Technology course, our final lesson, the Humanistic Ethic, a compass for an exponential age. Over the course of this series, we've explored how ethics and technology are intertwined in nearly every part of modern life. We've talked about character and moral reasoning. We've examined work, education, housing, artificial intelligence, economics, and entrepreneurship. In the process, we have continually prioritized human welfare and individual unfolding. Throughout the course, we've applied the humanistic ethic to technological concerns, but it can be applied to many other dimensions in our lives, including, for example, shaping and adopting public policy. When the primary reason for passing or rejecting legislation and policies is guided by a sincere and selfless wish to improve the lives of others, rather than power ideology and winning, those developing and passing public policy will only care how it will reduce suffering, or protect freedom and dignity, or expand opportunity and prosperity for all. In the area of communications, the news media often seems to prioritize the most shocking and attention-grabbing stories. If it bleeds, it leads, as the saying goes. But sensationalism, fear-mongering, catastrophizing, clickbait headlines only worsen public fear, anxiety, division, hostility, and mistrust, while often ignoring the stories that matter most. But instead of basing the news on the most sensational or shocking stories of the day, the humanistic ethic requires assignment editors, news directors, and journalists to begin by asking, what's the most important thing we can do today in service of humanity? What does our community need to know today to help it thrive? What do our consumers need to know to prosper and to maintain their personal freedoms and individual rights? Similar questions ought to be asked by anyone who uses social media, especially as a means of self-expression. As in politics, this kind of expression can merely be about winning arguments by any means possible, no matter who gets hurt in the process. Online spaces often reward outrage, tribalism, and extremism, which is all the more reason to let the humanistic ethic guide its use. Do we recognize the humanity of those we disagree with, even when we can't see them? Do we treat them with dignity, even when we can easily get away with demonizing and dehumanizing them? Are we striving to build understanding, or are we creating division? Are we genuinely considering where others are coming from, or just waiting for our turn to pounce? In the arena of criminal justice, which is often punitive, but neither restorative nor corrective, the humanistic ethic requires us to ask, does this system help society and promote individual dignity? How does time behind bars cancel out the impact of one's crimes? How are the victims of those crimes made whole, not through retribution, but reparation? How do we keep those responsible for crimes as productive members of society whenever possible, rather than stigmatizing them to the point they are unlikely to ever find meaningful work again? How do we treat them with dignity? How do we help them unfold? These are difficult questions to grapple with. I ask them only to show how the humanistic ethic can be widely applied to areas beyond technology, far more, in fact, than we can discuss now. However you might respond to such questions, we can agree that we are living in a rare and extraordinary period in human history. For the first time, our tools can reshape societies at global scale in real time. But our technical abilities are growing faster than our moral traditions, creating an ethical gap. Our challenge is to close it, not by slowing innovation, but by deepening and expanding our use of human wisdom, compassion, and belonging, by continuing, that is, to become better. I say become better, not become good, because ethics is not perfect. I personally believe that every ethical choice is accompanied by an ethical dilemma, meaning we must make a difficult decision between two beneficial outcomes, or, as it often feels, between the lesser of two evils. Anyone who has ever voted knows this feeling and the difficulty in trying to figure out which candidate, referendum, or initiative to say yea or nay to. In decisions that feel so highly personal, exercising the right to vote, it's easy to think of our own interest more than the priorities of the humanistic ethic. Yet here, too, we may find it more helpful and important to step back from the trees to see the forest by asking how my decision will most benefit the welfare and happiness of others. This may be the most important takeaway from this course, that you have agency in our exponentially changing world. You are an ethical player, whether you realize it or not. What you do or don't decide, what you do or don't do, will impact the future and the lives of others. With this in mind, I want to begin to close by offering a few practical steps for proceeding along your own ethical journey. First, know who you are and what you are about. Ethics means character, those defining qualities that remain true of us no matter the circumstances or consequences to our lives. It is the part of us that others can trust and rely upon. It is the part of us that is true even when we are alone. So ask yourself, who am I? Who will I be when the going gets tough? Second, decide which moral approach you will follow and why. Do you rely mostly on rules, on outcomes, or on core values? Understanding your own ethical orientation helps you recognize the strengths of your ethical practice along with its weaknesses, which you can then remain mindful of. This is why you ought to understand the reasons for your ethical approach, so you will always remain aware of its pitfalls, be ready to reevaluate and adjust, and to remain ethically humble. Third, move slowly when possible. Ethical mistakes are often made in haste, under pressure, or without reflection. When circumstances allow, give yourself time to evaluate, reconsider, and refine your choices. Practice iterative deployment by testing the waters and adjusting. But beware of the precautionary principle. Not moving forward at all, better safe than sorry, doing nothing, is also a choice that can have both positive and negative consequences. Fourth, readily admit when you are mistaken. Ethics requires humility. None of us sees clearly all the time, and as I said, every ethical decision is accompanied by an ethical dilemma. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. A willingness to acknowledge error is not weakness, it's ethical and it takes character. As they say in Silicon Valley, failure is practice. Being ethical is exactly that, a practice, not perfection. Fifth, change course when necessary. When it becomes obvious that we've been heading in the wrong direction, that what we've been doing isn't working, it's insanity, as Einstein said, to keep repeating the same mistakes. Sometimes the best way to proceed is to start over. And when what we've been doing has been detrimental to the lives of others, it is ethically imperative that we do so. Sixth, clean up your mess when you can. We all make mistakes. Ethics, again, is practice. So long as we are motivated by concern for human welfare and individual unfolding, so long as we have been proceeding considerately, ever ready to adjust and change course if necessary, then we have done our best. In doing so, if doing so, I should say, has led to unexpected consequences, then we ought to do our best to repair what we can. Finally and foremost, hold tight to your ethical compass. Throughout this course, we have explored how the humanistic ethic can be beneficially used to help us respond to some of today's greatest challenges. It is an approach that goes back thousands of years, as reflected in the universal golden rule: do for others what you would have done for yourself. That was rephrased during the Enlightenment as never use others as a means to your own ends, but consider them as ends within themselves, and has been rewritten again by modern democracy as the inherent worth and dignity of every person. You can access this sentiment anytime by asking the same question we've returned to throughout this course: how do my decisions and actions promote human welfare and individual unfolding? I have argued, and I hope demonstrated, why I think this is the best, though not perfect, ethical compass for guiding our lives and the choices we make. I believe that every major advance in human well-being, from democracy to medicine to civil rights to education, was driven by people devoted to human rights, freedom, and well-being. The humanistic ethic is not naive optimism. It's practical. It works. When it comes down to it, it is the only thing that ever has. On behalf of Singularity Sanctuary, thank you for joining us for this course on ethics and technology. It has been my great privilege and honor to be your facilitator. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact us at hello@singularitysanctuary.com. I wish you all the best in your own ethical journey. May you be well, may you prosper, and may you be happy.